Welcome everybody. Got a big crowd to at least start out the meeting today. And welcome to the Deputy Mission Support Group Commander. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day and coming. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Again, welcome, and appreciate everybody taking their time out of the day here or evening to join us, and we'll go through today's agenda and hopefully get some good information on how the school's doing and such. So for the board, hopefully you had time to review the agenda, and with this we need to approve the agenda to move forward.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Kelly.
I'll second the motion.
Paul Hill seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is any public comments on any agenda items. Is there any takers? Next, we'll go through the correspondence to the board. This is a message from Chris and Rebecca Smell. It says, "Thank you for the beautiful flowers that you sent. Sincerely, thank you." The next one is for the passing of the mother of Allison Clark. It says, "Board of Education, so very much. I would like to say thank you for the beautiful plant you sent my family and I for the passing of my mom. Your support and prayers during this most difficult time mean so much." From Allison. And got a letter from the Donna Gregerchek. Learn that. So, very nice letter here saying thank you, and personal note at the box says, "Thank you for your donation of hamburgers and buns and for the last minute use of elementary gym. I had no clue it was going to rain, so happy for backup plans." So, I appreciate the kind letter here. Next on the agenda is the recognitions. So,
We are Wrestle. We would get to announce this team, and it's my pleasure to announce the little wingman all-stars from out at White Elementary. If you guys will come up forward, Miss Hunter and team, going to give you guys an update on our new preschool program operating in its second year this year, with expansion to the team to help meet the demands of our preschool needs here in the community. So welcome, and you guys can take the floor. I'll get your slideshow pulled up.
Thank you for having us here this evening. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tori Hunter. I know that Dr. Wheeler and Mr. Moran are thrilled that I have a paper in my hand that I'm going to read from, because my reputation is that I can be a little witty, but I also get very nervous in front of big people, and I didn't want to forget to say anything that was important. So I'm currently the director of Little Women Preschool Program, as well as a full-time teacher. I think I speak for the entire team, and some of them are still sitting in the back, when I say that it is an absolute honor to be part of this amazing opportunity. The Little Women Preschool Program provides free, quality preschool for up to 128 students at this time. This community has been blessed with a number of strong preschool programs but they were usually full and with a waiting list. We have now been able to provide a large number of those families with a place for their children to get important kindergarten readiness skills, and we're very grateful for that opportunity. At this time, I would love to introduce my amazing team to you. Returning this year after an amazing first-year teacher are Jody Hamilton, first-year teacher, and Abby Franson. They are both TKs, teachers' kids, and so they grew up with a love of school and with definitely strong role models. Carrie Heino has joined us as well. We are thrilled to have her years of early childhood experience with us on our team. We are supported by some pretty amazing, I like to call them teacher's assistants. Mariah Jackson, please stand up. Mariah is paired with me. She is a certified teacher, and this is her second year in our program. Since I have director's duties as well, she's an amazing resource for me. Her presence in my classroom allows my kids to have a certified teacher with them at all times. Our routines and procedures remain seamless, even if I am called away to do director duties. We really share our kids. We also are blessed to have Carly Frieden with us this year. We have been tasked with making Carly fall in love with teaching. She's not master's own, and they want her to go and get her degree and then come back and work for us here in the district. No pressure, Carly, none at all, okay? Also joining us this year is Isabella Chapa. She comes to us from Dallas, and her mom is an elementary principal, so she also grew up loving school and valuing education. And last but certainly not least, we were able to snag the amazing Marcina Butler, who brings years and years of early childhood experience and expertise to our program. She also has a little bit of a background in healthcare, and we have some kiddos this year with some medical needs, and so we are so thrilled to have her joining us. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hamilton, who has a picture presentation to show you.
So I actually created this presentation last spring. Tori came to me and asked if I could put something together to thank Dovia for our grant, and I did just that. It's really just a peek into what our days look like in preschool. So you'll see a lot of, it's pretty windy. Yeah. You'll see a lot of sensory activities, a lot of small group instruction, and definitely a lot of meaningful play at the giant part of our day. So I'll just let you enjoy. Okay, I think this one's me. Hi everybody, I'm Abby Franson. I actually, my first degree is in exercise science based, so I'm super excited. I promise I'm going to make it as brief as possible. But everything that goes into this is everything that I believe in, and we're super excited to get started. So this is just a quick peek at the Ready Bodies, Learning Minds program that we are beginning to implement into our building this year. It's not new to the district. It has been around in some elementary schools before. It's coming around through our district before, and we're just getting started with that out at Whiteman with Building. So what is Ready Bodies, Learning Minds? I'm going to read to you and then I'm going to talk to you, okay? Ready Bodies, Learning Minds is the end result of research suggesting that
This generation of children is missing the opportunity to experience the world. So if you could go to the next one for me. Why Ready Bodies Learning Minds? Well, this program is telling us that these children are lacking in fundamental sensory experiences. The research is dating back to when container babies that's coming around. So saying that kids are getting technology driven and they're lacking those experiences because they're not crawling as much. We're using them in rockers. We're putting them in those containers is what the research is saying. So they're lacking that exploration and that sensory input. So we're kind of fundamentally underdeveloped. So Ready Bodies is coming around and giving us the opportunity to explore our environment again, which in turn improves academic performance. So some of the activities that you're going to see in our motor lab and now somewhat in our classroom as well is being placed on the tummy. As easy as lying down on their stomach is developing a bunch of different muscles and a bunch of experiences for them that helps them perform in the classroom. Going barefoot, climbing on things, running, jumping, taking other risks during play that children don't always get to experience these days are what they're lacking and what they need. And so all of these activities are getting put in place in school during your daily routine, and it's helping them to develop those muscles and develop cognitively, socially, and physically as well. Who benefits from this program? Everybody. Everybody benefits from this program. The students, the parents, the classroom teachers, special teachers. You can do some of these activities at home, in the hallway, which we do often, in our classrooms, on carpet, in music. These are activities that you can do anywhere, but also specifically in the motor lab. So we incorporate these into our daily routines, but we also have a designated area in Whiteman right now that is the motor lab that will eventually be opening up to the entire building to use. So we can implement this. I'll show you here is our sensory path, which is stickers that have been waxed down into the hallway. You can use it in the classroom, on the playground. All of these are concepts and ideas that we can take with us in and outside of the classroom. We're going to speak a little bit more to the motor lab here. This is copy and pasted directly off the website. I'm not going to read it all to you, but basically it's just explaining what these weird activities when you walk by and you see kids spinning around on their bellies and bouncing a ball off the wall and drawing giant circles on a whiteboard, how those activities correlate to academic performance. So that physical development and those fundamentals are improving their academic and cognitive ability. So this is just kind of, there's a lot of research based on that I don't need to get into today. It's telling you the purpose behind the activities that we're doing. Little Wingman and Ready Bodies. So with your help, the Little Wingman team has been able to complete a new book study. We've read the book and we're working on implementing those ideas into our classrooms. Purchase playground equipment, aligning with the goals of Ready Bodies Learning Minds. Purchase and place a sensory path in the school hallway for all students to be able to use. Begin implementing philosophies of Ready Bodies into our daily routine, and develop a motor lab that will soon be open to the entire school. So for that, we thank you, and we appreciate your support.
Hi, I'm Carrie Hino, and it's been a pleasure to be able to be a part of the Little Wingman team this year. And we are excited to be partnering with our early childhood special ed team this year. And we have currently 4 families that are piloting with us that are involved in the early childhood special ed program by being peer models. Their children are coming full day for a full day of preschool. And we are hoping that this will provide more opportunities in the future if this is successful for more staff to be involved in that and have their children involved in our program. So we're very excited about that. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Tori.
I think that's really all that we have for you guys tonight. We just want to end with thanking you for having us here and for your amazing support and for giving us a chance to speak to the program that we so love, because we have really thoroughly enjoyed every minute of this journey, and we thank you for your support and you guys too.
So for those in the audience, and then just as a reminder for the board, this program was set up by a $1 million DODEA grant, and it was, I think, the third in a series of Europe grants. So Great Expectations and Results Urgency Plan to enhance our learning here in Valdosta. And there's no better place that we can invest our funds than in our early childhood program. So we're really excited about not just what this great team is doing, but what that work will mean for kindergarten readiness and going all the way through graduation. So we're excited about that, and you guys are super important, but as you guys know, your team is too, so we'll have everyone come on up. We're going to do a photo as we normally do with these presentations up here, and then we will frame that and send it out all over social media.
Very good. Okay, I'll take your picture on three. 1, 2, 3. Okay, very good.
So thank you, Little Wingman, truly a great program, and I'm glad we were able to get that started up last year. And we're going to continue with some recognitions tonight. We'd like to talk about our September Phenomenal Panthers. And our very first Phenomenal Panthers that we'd like to talk about tonight, if they would come up here, we're going to recognize the members of the Knob-Noster High School trap team. So if you guys could make your way up here. Come all the way up. You have to stand there while we present and talk to you.
They're tired and just got done with trap practice.
Just watch standing in front of that computer. Keep going. We're not supposed to be in front of YouTube. All right, so the team here earned second place in state during the regular season, and the varsity team won second place at state at the tournament. And the individuals there also medaled in the top 3 in the state tournament. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the team for the season included Shelby Barlow, John Van Houten, Austin Morris, Joe Vizino, David Walters, Wyatt Seymour, Ethan Pruitt, Madison Cochran, Leo Ongley, Ella Feinsilver, Lucy Verslavich, Xavier Ortiz, and Scott Allen. And the varsity team was Shelby Barlow, John Van Houten, Austin Morris, Joe Vizino, and David Walters. And obviously, they were coached by McKay McKinley. And then the individual winners at the state tournament, we have a state champion here. And Shelby Barlow took first place at the state tournament as the female shooter in the varsity division. She also was the high average scorer, if I understand correctly, is that right? For the regular season, for the females for the regular season. Then Madison Cochran took third place as a female shooter in the junior varsity division. Lucy Verslavich took third place in the female shooter in the junior varsity division. John Van Houten took second place, the male shooter in the varsity division. And Joe Vizino took third place in the male shooting in the varsity division as well. We'd like to just send a huge congratulations. This was the first year for this, and you guys came out and you proved that you are definitely worthy, and that this is a great program for Knob-Noster going forward. We would like to just send our congratulations for you, for your regular season, and what you did in the state tournament as well. Truly an amazing thing, and this program is going to go a long way based on the foundation that you guys have set already here. So let's give them a huge round of applause. And then we'd like to thank Sonic Drive-In, actually, who's going to give us some ice cream for these guys, so you guys can go relax there, I guess, afterwards, since you're coming out of practice. And we'd like to
pay me now.
Oh, okay. We'd like to get a picture with you guys go out.
And while we have them up there, it's been such a immediately successful program that we were approached this year to open that up to include some middle school students in 8th grade to kind of get that feeder in. There's some interest there and some skill to kind of keep the great success going that you guys have started. That's a remarkable performance in this new event. And did we miss an additional level award outside of state? Did I track on that?
John did compete at nationals this year.
Okay.
So he was able to go to
Minnesota, right? Yeah. Minnesota and Michigan.
Okay. Well, guys, fantastic job. Keep up the good work, and we feel safe having you guys around.
Very good. Can I have a certificate for you?
And then we have a second group of phenomenal Panthers for the 2020-2021 school year. These were the leaders in the student-to-student group out at Whiteman Elementary. So if we could have our representatives for our S2S group out at Whiteman come forward.
This one. Oh, don't forget.
So I know that we've mentioned this, Dr. Wheeler's brought this to the attention of the board right after it happened, but the Whiteman Elementary S2S program, ES2S program, was awarded the Elementary Team of the Year in 2020 by the Military Child Education Coalition, or MSEC. This year, the 2021 application went forward to the highest level awarded to all S2S chapters. They were notified in June that they were finalists for the Elite Team of the Year. And during the MSEC's National Training Seminar in July, Whiteman Elementary S2S was awarded the 2021 Elite Team of the Year. They beat out everybody else. So this is a national award for these guys. Give them a huge round of applause. And this obviously was a very tremendous honor as they were selected as the top chapter from the elementary, middle school, and high school levels. It just wasn't on their level. It was the #1 program out of 534 S2S programs across the world, including 34 states in the United States and 12 different countries. In addition to their certificates from the school district tonight, Mrs. Watson has brought their Elite Team of the Year trophy. And guess who that gets? Maybe you can take that home and put it on your ankle. I don't know. But we're going to read all the students because we would like to definitely honor them. Alexis Soper, Amaya Bernal, Christian Carr, Serenity Cotton, Xander Buchanan, Allison Leonard, Connor Johnson, Ella Sprague, William Faro, and Aliana Villalobos. I hope I got that right. And students that have moved away are Layla Fierro, Parker Braden, Garrison Stewart, and Asaya Iera. And their sponsor this year will be Mrs. Haley Wickham. And we'd like to once again just to congratulate our S2S Elite Team of the Year who beat everybody. Everybody. Let's give them a huge round of applause.
Again, congratulations, and that award was presented by First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden, which was a pretty cool experience for those students. And I also want to say just a big shout out to Mr. Leonard and Mrs. Stewart, kind of the predecessors out there at Whiteman in those leadership roles, and we know that their work is continuing to be carried forward with our new leadership. So again, congrats everyone.
It's great to see everybody out, and appreciate them taking the time tonight to visit with us. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the principal and director reports as presented. Is there any questions from the board on any of these reports? With none, we'll move on to the MSBA report.
I apologize for the movement in that projector. We'll get that fixed for next meeting. I think it may have to do with the HVAC changes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of September. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the release of this year's state assessment data. The math assessments have served as the cornerstone of state and federal accountability systems for more than 20 years, but not this year. Students throughout Missouri took the math assessments last spring under the unprecedented circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Because of those challenges, the State Board of Education decided to suspend the use of those test results from state and federal accountability systems this year. Commissioner of Education Margie Van Dieven cautions everyone that blanket comparisons to previous year's assessment results would be a serious misuse of the data, but she says the data will be useful in other ways.
How can we learn from this unique period of time in education and to solve issues moving forward? Like many other industries across the state and nation, we are standing at a time where we can reimagine education, and closely looking at these data will help inform those new ways of doing business. We must also use these data to help us determine what individual student groups were mostly impacted by these variables, as well as how to allocate these COVID relief dollars to best serve our students, educators, and schools.
Van Dieven says she's pleased the high participation rate in last spring's assessments means there's no need for a fall testing window this year.
These data, along with your local assessments and other key data points, will shed light on the learning across our state and help us understand where Missouri students are academically and how to overcome the pandemic-related challenges presented. We look forward to working alongside local school leaders as we dig further into these data and together learn all we can to continue improving lives through education well into the future.
The statewide assessment data is being released this month, and individual school district data will be made available at a later date. As the new school year resumes in the midst of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, school districts are placing a high priority not just on protecting the physical health of students, teachers, and staff, but also on addressing their mental health needs. Educators and mental health professionals are seeing more cases of anxiety and even depression among some students as the pandemic drags on. Detective Jason Klaus is the state coordinator for the Missouri Crisis Intervention Team, a group that teaches law enforcement officers and first responders how to recognize a mental health crisis and de-escalate the situation. Klaus, a former school resource officer in Perry County, says the group works closely with school safety personnel.
We work with a lot of school resource officers who are law enforcement, training them in crisis intervention, the de-escalation technique. But it really doesn't stop there, because if you think about your school counselors, your school administrators, your teachers, your custodians, bus drivers, they all find themselves in the middle of, a student, maybe even parents that may be in a mental health type crisis. So the skills, the de-escalation, all is very important to really an entire school district staff.
Klaus adds it's important for teachers to recognize changes in student behavior.
And they really are the first ones to recognize a change in that student, a change in behavior. And it could be something of grades start to drop, even by, a half a grade, which is out of their norm. Maybe truancy starts to become an issue, just things that are out of place. It is very paramount to begin that conversation of asking that person, is there something you'd like to talk about? Is there something going on? I've seen some changes, but by ignoring it, you kind of allow that situation to continue and get to a point where now it's maybe beyond what that teacher or conversation can do to really bring that individual back around and offer those services.
Plow spoke at the recent School Safety Academy sponsored by MSBA Center for Education Safety. The no-cost training is designed for school safety coordinators, school resource officers, and school protection officers, and allows them to earn a school safety specialist certification. A second School Safety Academy is scheduled for this month. There's still time to register for the 2021 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators to be held November 5th through 7th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature numerous breakout sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, along with a great lineup of general session speakers, all in a new location at the Kansas City Convention Center. Among the general session speakers this year is former Kansas City Chiefs tight end and Pro Football Hall of Famer Tony Gonzalez, who is a strong advocate for programs designed to provide emotional support for children so they can be successful in school. And don't forget the 2021 Safe Schools and Colleges Forum, sponsored by MSBA Center for Education Safety, that will be held this year on November 4th in conjunction with the annual conference in Kansas City. Check the MSBA website for registration information and a schedule of conference sessions. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Thank you for that. We can move on. Any questions, comments from the board on anything presented from the MSBA report? As such, we will move on to the superintendent report.
All right, well, again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to those of you who decided to stick around with us. Kind of a brief, thank you. Kind of a brief report. We had just a shorter period between the last meeting and this one, so I'll run through. As in the memo, we're about 10% through the school year. It's 10 critical percent in terms of COVID. We were really concerned about what we would see in those first 2 weeks, specifically in that second week and then that week following Labor Day. But overall, we kind of saw an elevated number of positive cases among our employees and our students in terms of COVID. That kind of tapered off or remained flat, and now it's starting to taper back off. So we're cautiously optimistic that we may have seen what we expect to see this fall. We continue to monitor those numbers daily and report those out on our COVID dashboard on our website. But overall going well, and our teachers are putting to good use these early days of the school year. We continue to put the final touches on the upcoming fiscal audit, which will be in district here in a week or so. We will report back on that in the months ahead, and then final approval by no later than that December meeting. But overall, things are moving forward well for that audit. Summer projects are wrapping up overall really well. We still have some lingering issues with the HVAC project. I've reported on some damaged units that delayed some of the process there, and some ongoing workforce and delivery issues. But overall, the project has not gone quite as smoothly as we would have expected. As a result, we are going to run through and do a final punch list on that project, top to bottom, side to side, with an independent technician, and we'll go ahead and punch that out and do final report. We're already working through that process with the contractor and with the architects. I'll allow the attendance to be submitted as presented. Overall, pretty good attendance numbers considering some of the implications of COVID. Little Winkman came out pretty strong with that 99%. Outside of that, it looks like it is Valdosta High School taking away the gold with a 96.90. So that's really good, and glad to see that, especially in our high school. So all of you guys should be very proud of those numbers. Balances for all funds month ending, 22,803,909. Revenues today, 2,208,896, which is 9.7% of anticipated. Expenditures, $2,326,057, which is 11.3% of budget. This weekend on Sunday through Wednesday, I'll be traveling out to Washington DC for the NAPUS Fall Conference and Capitol Hill visits. Also coinciding with that event is the Air Force Association meeting. I plan to drop in there. That's something that I have not attended before, so I want to go check that out and connect with a few past leaders at Whiteman. With that said, that concludes my report.
Dr. Leonard, does everybody have air conditioning now? I know that was an issue earlier on.
Well, depends on who you ask. If you ask the teachers, then no, there's still some lingering issues in places. I know specifically one area at the middle school has had a challenge, but that one, I know that remaining area that I'm aware of is not connected to this project. It's connected to a compressor that went out. But it has not been ideal, and teachers have been very gracious in some areas. We're now approaching the point where we'll transition the season, and we are looking at making sure that all units have been fired up and that we're ready to go. So, depending on what we get on that independent assessment walkthrough, we may discuss this in further detail.
Any other questions, comments on the report?
Is reference the attendance, is that just phenomenal numbers or is that normal?
You know, I'd have to look back. You typically see some higher attendance numbers at the start of the year, but those are pretty good numbers. I know anytime I'm, as a principal, within a 97% area, up around that, we were really pleased with that. You'll see some occasions, rarely, where we go into the 97s, but in those upper 96s is really good. So yes, very, very good, especially given the COVID situation. It's quite remarkable.
Any further questions, comments? Next, we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there any questions, comments on the consent agenda? And we will pull the parents and teachers eval out, as there's no report attached. We'll follow up with that.
So that motion will be motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
There is no report attached.
Oh, okay.
That was a team effort by Mrs. Hopper and myself to delay that. We'll get that in for next month.
So if there's no questions, comments, we need a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
Paul Hill made the motion.
Second.
Grant Jones, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is approval of the bills. Is there any questions, comments on the bills as presented? There's no comments. We need a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Thank you, Paul. Birchie?
Second.
Kelly Davis, seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is approval of bills requiring abstentions. Any questions on the bill? If there's no comments or questions, we need a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Make a motion to approve the bill as presented.
Thank you, Kelly Davis.
Second.
Cliff Everett seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0-1 with Grant abstaining. Next on the agenda is the summer school program eval.
Okay, so I'll run through this pretty quickly. This is the same format that we've seen the last several years, so I'll point out some of the data that's most relevant. Overall, summer school is provided again for the fiscal year for remediation and enrichment activities for Navitas with an emphasis on COVID-19 remediation. Summer school also provides opportunities for extended contracts and income for teachers and other instructional and support staff. Program highlights, student numbers were higher than anticipated given the COVID impact, almost back to normal for this year. Attendance was back to normal for summer school. Expenditures were up from the prior year in certified salaries. Part of that was to address learning loss efforts. Overall, the net revenues were steady, and the organization and operation for the year was very smooth. And then, just as a note, all items in this report exclude the net positive outcome on the impact data revenues that flow through from the summer school attendance. Again, we ran 18 days. The length of day was about 7.25 hours. Enrollment numbers total were 760 students, K&E 263, Whiteman Elementary 261, middle school 138, and high school 98. The attendance percentage 95.26. Average daily attendance 723. We estimated a 14-to-1 student to teacher ratio. Teacher stipend was again $3,975 for this year. 6 principals. Principal stipend was included in their salaries, and the net revenues from summer school estimated $358,857. We again offered student incentives to drive attendance. That was attendance pay for perfect or near perfect attendance for students, as well as prizes and giveaway items. And this is kind of how our attendance results and state revenues look on a comparative linear note. Again, we were just short of $360,000 for revenues. That's a full-time equivalent estimation of just under 80 students. So you can see we were pre-COVID around 92 students. The year prior, 86. We really are usually around 90 students, so we still have a little bit of recovery yet to do. Expenditures by object. This is just kind of a breakdown of how our expenditures roll out. Again, the certified salaries saw an increase with how we work to address learning loss. Benefits accordingly went up slightly, and then supplies went up slightly as well. Total expenditures just under $260,000. So our net profit is just right at $100,000. Future considerations, we don't see any changes in summer school. You can look back in the 12, 13, 14, 15 school years where the district was either not running a summer school program or outsourcing a program. You can kind of see what that looked like at that time. And keep in mind that those net losses also carried over into implications with lost revenue for impact dates. So we expect it will continue on as we currently have, and it's worked really well. One thing that we have to keep in mind is the impact of any snow days that carry over. We run a really tight school year and try to the extent possible, end the regular term before Memorial Day. But if we have a really rough winter, such as the one we expect that we may have this year, that could cause some slight changes in how we run summer school. But overall, we do plan to continue to operate that. And that concludes the brief report.
Any comments from the board on this report? With no comments, we need a motion to approve the summer school program as presented.
Make a motion to approve summer school as presented.
Thank you, Grant. Casey seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is a first reading of org charts. Is there any questions on the org chart as presented? First reading, so we'll take any questions, comments.
This is just a carryover from last year. It was an agenda item that was ultimately adopted by the board, but wanted to put it up again for any feedback.
Thank you for working on that.
So with none, we'll move on to the A+ toolkit for military officers.
So, just a quick look at this. This is a new document that is originating out of Erie University under the directive from General and Mrs. Hecker, as well as General and Mrs. Brown. There is essentially a toolkit for incoming officers into the Air Force on how to effectively engage with the public education sector and educational leadership. And this will be debuted next week at Air Force Association for everyone in attendance and then spread out across the Air Force. So the toolkit basically is just kind of a next step in the ongoing storyline of the focus on the importance of education quality as it relates to mission readiness and quality of life for our service members. What I do want to point out is if you go down through, they have examples of success for identifying issues, initial efforts, examples of success, and then gain and sustain momentum, examples of success. And they again had kind of highlighted Wyman Air Force Base and our partnership here with the installation as an example of success. And then went on to share our case study right down here on the left with General Nichols on that AMAC switch panel partnerships, which we hope has not been in the news as of late, but it continues to be a pretty popular item among the Air Force, and just the partnership that it represents. It's not as much the switch cover itself as what that storyline and partnership represents. So we're excited to be featured there, and hopefully we'll continue to carry on this momentum.
Any questions from the board? With no comments, we'll move on to the next item, which is the Air Force study on education quality.
So as the board recalls, that back in 2019, the Air Force kind of was the front runner across all branches of service in running a report. It was a two-part report. One was on quality of education. The other was on license reciprocity. And we were fortunate here at Whiteman in 2019 that Whiteman came out #1 in that 2019 report. This report was released about a week ago, and it's starting to circulate. You know, when Michael Jordan and the Bulls, failed to get the trophy, they hit the gym, and Michael's been in the gym for both of us here over the last few days. We did not come out #1 again on this, but we are still among we estimate the top 5% on our outcomes. A couple things on this that were a little bit of a challenge. We know that on our last report, our pre-kindergarten availability was a red zone. You can see that it's still red, although we stood up a little wingman program and expanded that. And when I dug in a little bit, I think the data is trailing just a little bit that inform these reports. And then the suspension rate, we're going to look into that as well, because I assure you that it's highly likely that more students were suspended in 2020 than in 2019, because we were not in session to be suspended about at least 25% of the year, if not more. So we're looking into that. I know the Association of Defense Communities and our education task force that has been stood up will be digging deeper into the data. I actually spoke to the criteria on this further this summer at an event, and I know there's some, a little bit of, feedback, across the Air Force on how we might be able to improve the metrics here, so we'll keep working on that, but at the end of the day, if you're not first, you're last, I've heard that said before, but we're still pretty darn happy that we're on the very end tip of this bell-shaped curve, as opposed to being on the other end. So we'll continue to circulate this and continue to kind of sharpen our pencil and continue to improve our services here. I do expect we'll see at least that pre-kindergarten availability change here as the data catches up, or the study catches up with the data, and then we're going to dig into that suspension rate to again see what informs that. The other area is that student to mental health student ratio. We remain yellow there. We're going to look into a little further into what we can do to shore that up. What you can see on the license reciprocity side, from a military friendliness aspect at the state level, you can see that we really made some striking improvements from law reciprocity from red to green, which was great, with everything else staying status quo. There are also some narrative data at the bottom that jumps into the report further, and then you can see that although we believe that Knob-Noster does hold some weight and leverage to the outcome of Whiteman Air Force Base, you can see that some metrics were run within the school districts of Henry and Johnson and Pettis counties. However, Henry County, Windsor being one of our more heavily impacted military districts by percentage, was excluded from that study, which is definitely a fallacy in terms of the impact on Whiteman. So there will be a feedback session. We'll continue to provide that feedback to get this shored up. But overall, good news.
Any questions, comments on the report as presented? Good news there. Next, we'll move to the FEMA-SEMA grant opportunity. There's an NOI here that you're in the process or have submitted.
We have submitted an NOI. We're waiting for to determine if that has been accepted. So I just wanted to kind of walk this back for the board. You will recall about this time last year, we took our trip to look at the FEMA storm shelters. Several board members attended that. Specifically, we were looking at the monolithic dome as a potential submission for the FEMA BRIC grant. The BRIC grant was a 90%, 10% match, and we proposed that for location at the existing Knob-Noster High School. Through that process, the funding amount is calculated based on the maximum population that could be served. On that site, we qualified for essentially a $2 million grant. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful with that grant. We found out later that no BRIC FEMA grant shelter was awarded in the state, so we were not alone on that. What we didn't know, or I didn't realize at the time, is that if you submit that BRIC grant, you basically receive some bonus criteria for future grant rounds. So moving forward to our current effort, we kind of regrouped and reevaluated our options and submitted a notice of intent for a hazard mitigation grant program. This is a different grant funding line item. It's a 75%, 25% district match, and proposed that on a new site location for a future new high school campus. In doing so, because of the population density in that area, it takes our qualifying federal grant amount up to right at $4.4 million. So we've almost gone up 2.5 times on what that will allow us to pull through on federal dollars. That is proposed in a site location off of 23rd Highway with the final site location to be determined. We do expect that we will get notice of the invitation to apply kind of on a timeline here in late September, October. The Applications would then be due July, August of 2022, with funding awarded no later than September 2022. Design period can begin immediately following that award, but no later than 6 months after the award. The design can also occur earlier if you wanted an earlier groundbreaking next fall, and that's once you get that invitation to submit an application, you will fall into two categories. You'll either fall into the funded category or the stacked category. If you're in the funded category, you're essentially guaranteed that that funding will fall through. If you're stacked, you're basically on a waiting list. And then once that is awarded, you have no longer than 36 months from the award to complete that project. So the next steps for this process would be to finalize the site acquisition, advocate with state and federal leadership for the funding of this application, conduct any required environmental assessments of the site, complete the initial scoping and design if selected for the application submission, and then integrate the design with any plans for a potential new stadium or a new campus. And then I have the contacts for this project listed. So with that said, that's kind of where we are. I think it's a really good value proposition for the district. I think it could come in very handy as we evaluate options for a potential new high school campus, as well as a potential new campus or a potential new stadium, which would precede a new campus.
Any questions, comments from the board?
That is fantastic.
Fingers crossed on that one. I think it would be a really, really helpful step for us if we are successful with that project, and we'll definitely put the full court press on to see if we can secure these funds.
If there's no comments, we will move on to our final one in new business, and that is the review of the entry and exit interviews for this year. I could not get that link to work, but I don't know if anybody else tried.
Sorry, guys.
We'll walk through probably maybe a little more detail than we have not seen this.
Okay.
So this is actually the staff exit interview that was brought to the board and was agreed upon by the Board of Education. This is the complete data from last year and for this year. Last year is coded up there in orange, and then last year's data. The data for this year is coded there in gray. Really what we're looking for is we're trying to get a better understanding of what prompted the individual to leave the district. A lot of times we know this information before they go, whether it's retirement or PCSing, or going on to a new job and a different opportunity. But sometimes we do get a little surprised by that. We're also asking questions about their workload, whether that was too light, just right, too difficult. We're asking questions about their pay as well. And then we're asking questions throughout this report as well, based upon the insurance that we give out, whether that's the medical insurance that we have, the vision that we offer, any of the supplementary plans that we offer, that is in this as well, just to kind of get an idea of whether or not that insurance is covering them and is taking care of their needs as an employee. And then we start to get into the heart of the issue about what they like the most about the district, what they like the least about the district, and then the big piece for us, for myself and Dr. Wheeler, is the suggestions and improvements that come from our staff that are leaving, for us to be able to go back and to truly look at what the district is doing to be able to help them. I think Larry had talked to us about making sure that we put in there how we use that. So I added a column over there on W, just to kind of give replies to some of the comments. Some of the comments are deltas or negatives, whatever, however you want to say that, for us to be able to work on. The orange ones that are here, that are highlighted, there are 3 individuals that brought a very similar comment. One from Mount Monster Elementary and 2 from Mount Monster Middle School, and that was dealing with discipline and with disruptive students. 2 of the individuals that actually sent those in did not send, well, one of them sent 1 person to the office the entire year. The other person did not send a single person to the office. The 3rd person was a special educator in special education in the classroom, and you can kind of see my response there to that one as well. We did have one more comment all the way at the bottom from an employee. It was actually the Little Wingman program that has been addressed, and actually she and Tori Hunter met together to discuss the information that was in that comment. So I welcome any questions that you guys have.
Oh, what percent actually fill out?
It's about 50%. And to be honest with you, that 50% comes on 50 email reminders. I send this out once, twice, 3 times a week sometimes to try to get feedback from them. Even sending it to individuals by themselves. I try to be very positive in what I'm sending through there and asking for their feedback. But it's right at 50%. And that was consistent with what we saw on the one we did. Again, before, right at 50%. Not for lack of trying, though. I can tell you that.
Any other questions, comments from the board? So it looks like focused on exit. What do you find anything on entrance?
So we do have an interview that was sent out to our new employees. Honestly, I wanted to give them some time to get acclimated to the school a little bit and not just fire that out right when they were initially hired, because those would probably be rainbows and unicorns. So we wanted to get a little bit more information about what was going on through our professional development that first week. Even our new teacher training that was the first 2 days. We will have the entry interview information for you guys in October. It has already been sent out. There's data there, but we're hoping to get more than 50% on our new numbers.
Just a quick question on the exit. Has that been shared with the admin team and in ways to address any of these items?
The actual spreadsheet itself is not shared with them, but I did have conversations with them around the information that was there. That's how I gathered that 2 of the individuals talking about discipline and disruptive students hadn't sent anybody to the office. One of them had sent 1 the entire year, and the other one was in this classroom. So that's how I gathered it. I did not send out anything on the classified pay schedule because Dr. Wheeler and I know that he was board had been working on that. And the information that was there was to increase the pay for classified pay. So we understand that we are working on that. But I also did not talk about the facts because student scheduling is based on student numbers in the classroom, how many students take that, and scheduling is looked at every semester.
You've made some changes to that one, so it's good.
Absolutely.
Which I hear is working very well.
And that facts teacher in question that pushed that through actually, I believe, at least 1 hour a day, possibly 2 hours a they had a co-teacher in there with them at the same time, so. As well.
My primary takeaway is just looking at, when you take out the PCS, you take out the, family moves or maybe relationship moves or retirements, just looking at where we're turning over the greatest number of employees. And we've identified some of those areas, and I'm trying to look more holistically at the data to say, is there a culture issue going on? Are we, sometimes the mistake is made on the hire. We recognize that, and just trying to look at what we can do to try to make sure when we make that decision to hire, we're making the very best decision that we can, and see how that transitions into culture, into our ability to retain, and try to see if we can knock down some of those areas where we're seeing turnover. We know our cooks, food service is a big one. That seems to stable out for the most part, with the exception of some retirements. We have some people coming back that have been in that department that left and want to come back, which I think is a really good metric in and of itself. And then in our special services department, just trying to see, it's a very, very, very challenging profession for a lot of reasons, especially when you look at that lane, and we're trying to look further into what we can do there, because we've seen a lot of turnover. Finding good paraprofessionals has been an ongoing challenge, which has led into both of those areas. We've increased the pay quite significantly from a percentage standpoint. We're going to watch those pretty closely. The other big one is on the recruitment side, just bus drivers. As you guys continue to hear that, you'll continue to hear that, and it's not just us. It's really interesting with what's going on in our workforce right now. When you can go to McDonald's and drive by the marquee and it's $15 an hour. I never saw that when I was in high school at McDonald's, or maybe I just wasn't looking. But high school, early career, I think there's a lot of competition in the workforce, and it's time for us to use every tool we can to recruit and retain.
I don't think Big Macs cost $5 either. Any questions, comments? This is all for the new business. We'll move into the old business with the return and the safe return to in-person instruction.
So I think the two issues I want to point out are the gating criteria. There's probably the gating, so when do we close down a classroom or a sport or a full school? That seems to be the hot topic right now. More so than gating criteria for closing down, schools are looking at gating criteria for re-implementing mask wearing. At this time, we do not have any gating criteria that we are considering at this time for the re-implementation of masking. If the board wants to develop that, I'm happy to carry forward that directive. And then as far as any shutdown, that's really a case-by-case basis. If we become aware of any individual area, whether it's a classroom or a sport or a school, where we're seeing a significant outbreak, we're looking at that and responding appropriately. Right now, I think our biggest risk is in our bus driver employee segment. If we happen to have a breakout in that area, we would definitely be at a severe challenge. Otherwise, what we've seen is that rise in positive employee cases. We saw that tabletop, and we've seen that decline back down. So overall, we're doing really, really well. I will say that I'm getting an uptick in feedback from parents, and the feedback is all over the place. So some of it is legitimate, some of it is just everybody's getting tired of this, and they're wanting to kind of. I'm wanting to scream. You guys are probably wanting to scream. I mean, parents are wanting to scream, and teachers are. Sometimes we just have to let people scream and then try to let calmer heads prevail. But that's the big issue right now. Again, at this point, we are not doing any gating criteria for the re-implementation of masking. The other big item is the recent announcement by President Biden on the mandatory vaccinations. My recommendation on that at this point is to be very, very cautious in taking action forward. I plan to be the superintendent that I used to make fun of when I was a 27-year-old superintendent. And I'm gonna really, really slow down on taking any action on that. I think that's the wise and prudent approach on something that's so controversial. And I don't think we want to have a knee-jerk reaction to be the first to that finish line. If the board feels otherwise, then I would definitely take a directive to change that approach.
One of my comments would be, I think we need to follow just what you said. I think we need to stay the course. I don't think there's any need to panic in this situation that we're in right now. I think we need to stick with guidance from state and local agencies, and like I said, stay the course and just move forward. I think we've been very proactive in the direction and the decision making that you all have made, and I think that's got us in a good spot. I mean, we're no different than any other districts out there. We've got our share of issues, trying to navigate these somewhat choppy waters, but I think we're in a better place than a lot of districts throughout the state. And yeah, I think we're doing a good job this year. Just kind of wait and see approach and move forward.
Thank you. I think the next big, of course, we don't know what will happen tomorrow, but the next thing that we're really looking at and starting to plan for is the type of additional variant or a variant combined with flu season and how that may impact really our numbers and our issues. So we're expecting hopefully to see that continue to decline or stay relatively low and manageable through the next couple of months. When we get into the winter, things may get interesting.
Any other comments, questions from the board? I just want to echo, I agree, we need a steady hand at the helm right now, that we don't make decisions on emotions or anything, that we think through problems and kind of stay the course. We have shown that by doing that, we're staying in session, and until something changes our minds on that, I do think a steady hand there is the way to go. So,
last reminder for the board is just please, if you feel any comments, especially comments of concern, please direct those folks back to either the building principal or directly to myself or Mr. Coron, or at least ask if they've been through engagement with us and are coming to you guys for a resolution. Then that's a little bit different. But if they haven't been through, so far we've had a pretty good track record of at least coming to an understanding, and we would ask you to continue to send those comments back to us if you hear those. And I would caution against getting into trying to be the problem solver or debate, because it's really, I've found it very, very hard to debate a lot of issues related to COVID. Because for every fact, there's an opposing fact, and a reliable source for both of them. And if you don't believe it, just ask the person with the varying opinions. They both have their sources and their facts. So again, free get out of jail free pass and back to us.
You know, I think at local level we're doing a great job. I think if you want controversy, all you have to do is turn on any particular news channel, and you'll see one side or the other. And, you know, we don't need that driving the direction that we try to safely educate our kids.
I agree that definitely the definition of fact has definitely changed. Personal opinion. With that, any other following comments?
I feel like, some of our success was led to good communication with parents and stakeholders and other faculty members. Not that I've seen any declines, but let's just not forget that fact too, as we move forward.
I agree with you, Casey. I think the fact that a lot of our decision making is based on good old common sense. And that's got us in a good place in where we're at now.
Look forward to going to my vehicle without qualification.
What was that?
Competition. No ride though. Not even anything. With that, no other comments. We need a motion to approve this item. That is up there that hopefully some younger eyes can read.
Make a motion to approve the 21-22 safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of service plan as presented.
Thank you, Kelly, for making the motion. Flip Edwards seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. With that, that concludes our open session for right now. And we just need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I make a motion to adjourn the executive session pursuant of RSMO 610.021, 1, 2, 3, and 13 by roll call vote.
Thank you, Casey, for making that motion. Cliff seconds. Roll call vote starting with Paul Hills.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 7-0. We will resume executive session in this room in about 15 minutes.